Hey, welcome to MiWeek After the Show. We were just talking a little bit here at the round table. It's very rare that both papers take the same stance on editorial-wise 2 weeks in a row. Both papers have gone after Bill Schuette 2 weeks in a row. But this week, it was about the AG's office subpoenaing reporters' notes as a reporter is at a prison facility interviewing a prisoner about the conditions there. And this is all part of a lawsuit that's happening and really is starting to open up kind of the conversation about the conditions inside these prisons and juveniles specifically.
Just starting with the subpoenas. I mean, this was outrageous. This was outright intimidation, harassment of a member of the press, trying to do her job. I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard of notes being subpoenaed before a story is written, while the notes are being taken. The Attorney General's office knows better than this. Now, Bill Schuette says he didn't know this was going on and he put a stop to it as soon as he found out. But he shouldn't have anybody in his office that thinks this is an okay thing to do. I've never seen anything more.
They served the reporter twice, too, correct?
Yeah, no, this was not a mistake, obviously.
No.
This was a very aggressive move by someone who was not respecting the sort of proper limits of their office and the freedom that the Constitution affords members of the press. I mean, this is, I think this is in league, though, with the other kinds of behavior we see from this Attorney General who really just believes that what he believes is okay, and that the strictures of law are not in his way, and that's been going on that's not just here. That's been going on for a while in terms of some of the things that he's thought were appropriate for his office.
He withdrew the subpoenas. He should have came with an apology, an outright apology to this reporter. But the bigger issue here is not the subpoenas. What this reflected was a real desperation on the part of the state. They are worried to death about this lawsuit that the reporter was gathering information on.
All right, so give us some of the detail on that.
Class action lawsuit on behalf of juvenile younger inmates, 16, 17-year-olds, who were convicted as adults and sent to adult prison. So you're sending these teenagers, 16, 17-year-old, into adult prisons where they're just being turned into basically sex slaves. The depositions, the stuff that's coming out from these kids it's chilling. Talking about the serial rapes, the abuse that is happening to them. I mean, kids who have committed fairly minor crimes are being sentenced to being raped and sexually abused over and over and over again. It's going to cost the state millions of dollars before it's over.
So what is it in our state system that is setting them up for these kind of conditions and these things to happen?
For starters, it's the way we treat juveniles in the criminal justice system. I mean, this is a state whose juvenile justice infrastructure looks like the third world in a lot of ways. We convict juveniles as adults for a lot of crimes that are not close to violent or the kinds of things that you would see that for, and then we sentence juveniles to adult prisons, and we still have this problem with all these juveniles who were sentenced to life without parole for things that they did. You can no longer do that because the Supreme Court has decided that nationally we can't our Constitution can't tolerate that. But we have a lot of kids who are still in, and we were one of the states on the front end of sentencing kids that way. I mean, we don't have a good, I think, balance in terms of how juveniles are different and how the criminal justice system has to be set up to deal with them differently. We are like a southern state or like a third world country when it comes to that. It's an embarrassment, and this is the result of that. When you do things this way and don't follow up with protections, kids get abused.
And those kids should have never been to prison. Most of them
right.
Never
they had no business in the first
place. A lot of them would have been done just fine on probation, but probation costs money at the county level. If the counties can send them to prison, they don't pay the probation costs. The state pays for incarceration, and so they save money. Meanwhile, nobody seems to care what the heck happens to these kids once you lock them up. And this isn't a matter, they're criminals, they deserve what they get. These are children.
It's children.
And it could as easily be your child as anybody else's for some of the crimes they're being locked up for.
All right, so say this lawsuit goes through, whether it gets settled or whether it gets litigated or not, what kind of changes should we be seeing in the state?
Well, the federal government there's a federal law that we're in violation on, that it specifically deals with prison rape and safety of inmates, particularly juveniles. We're already in violation. We just need to adhere to the federal law.
But you can't stop there. I mean, you have to see this as symptom of that larger issue about how we deal with juvenile offenders. I mean, the idea that you can be so easily charged as an adult and convicted as an adult in this state for relatively minor crimes. I mean, these are not really minor crimes, but they're not the most serious
They're
crimes.
property crimes.
They're property crimes, that's right. Also, again, the way we sentence juveniles needs to change in Michigan. So it's not just about what happens once they're in prison, it's about keeping them out of that system entirely, which is what other states have been much better about.
And this isn't the first time that we've had trouble in our prison system with prison abuses and women, usually it was
paid out a
before.
lot of money to female inmates who were being raped by guards, and the state has to be worried. That was a very expensive lawsuit. The state has to be worried the same way.
Well, and think about the way that the food contract has been handled for prisons. I mean, we are not a progressive state when it comes to criminal justice, and everybody knows it, but no one has stepped up forward so far to say that we need to do it again. We spend a lot of money.
And if the point of spending $2 billion on a criminal system is to lower your crime rates, keep your people safe,
we're failing.
I don't think we're failing. We should look at prisons as, the former prison director said, as places you put people you're afraid of. Everybody else, we should figure out what punishment would deter the crime without simply throwing them in jail at a cost of $40,000 to $50,000 a year per inmate and forgetting about them.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. MiWeek After the Show. Thanks so much for joining us. MiWeek.org. See you later.